Hi guys, it's Hannah and welcome back to the Dyslexic Reader. Today we are going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. The proper name will be in the title. It's completely left my mind right now. Because believe it or not, we are halfway through 2020, which seems like we should be further, and also that we should still be in springtime. But it's been a weird year and here we are. So I'm going to do like a quick little wrap up overview of some of the books so far I've read this year, favourites, worst, and all that kind of good stuff. So I have done this in previous years, which you can check out. I went looking for the original tag photo to give credit, but I could not find it anywhere online. I'll have another look, and if I find it, it'll be in the description. And if I can, if any of you guys know where this originally started from, because it's been going about for years, please let me know so I can credit the appropriate person. But with all my searching, I couldn't find the original one. There might even be multiples. I'm not sure, but we're just going to dive in, and there's 13 questions. Some of them don't apply to me, so I can't give answers for, but we'll get there when we get there. So the first question is the best book you've read so far in 2020, and this one was easy for me. I have read maybe 6 or 7 books I've given 5 stars to, but one stands out head and shoulders above the rest very easily, and that is the book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. This was just incredible. It blew my mind. If I could have given it 6 out of 5 stars, I would. The writing was flowery but not hard to get. It was still very real and grounded, and the character development was so good, and the pacing and everything, the concept, just really great. And if anyone has any inkling that they think this might slightly be up their alley, I really encourage you to read it, because it was absolutely amazing and I thoroughly loved it. The second question is the best sequel you've read so far in 2020, and I think that would be The Obelisk Case by N.K. Jemisin. This is the second in the Broken Earth trilogy. I have read all 3 this year. The first one was my first book of the year. That's what I started the year off with, and I have finished the other 2. And I enjoyed The Stone Sky, the third one too. Maybe a little bit more than this, but I think this is probably... I was going to do a video on it at the time, and then I wasn't making a lot of videos like around the time when I read this. But I think this is probably the best second book of a trilogy I have ever read. Like, this second book did not feel filler at all. The character development was great. The pacing was great. It left in such a good place. And I understand that second books are there to set up the third book, so with the third book you can go in and out with a bang. But like, this was so different and just so well done. The whole trilogy is really well done, but this was a great sequel for me, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought it picked up in a good place from the first one and carried it really through to the second, and at no point did it feel like a middle filler book. So props to it for that one. The next 2 I don't really have answers for. It is the new releases you haven't read yet but you want to, and the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. If you watch my channel, you know I'm not against current releases, but I just tend not to follow them. I have so much backlist stuff to get to, and I get the majority of my books from the library, and any books that I do buy are secondhand, so it's hard to even get new releases anyway. So there is a couple of books I'm sure that have come out this year that I will be excited for, or are yet to come out, but I won't be getting my hands on them for a couple of years. I'm like kind of back behind everybody, so I'm sure there are books that have come out and will be coming out I will be enjoying, but I just tend not to keep on top of the news because I know it'll be a few years before they trickle down to places where I'll be able to get them. The 5th is the biggest disappointment of the year, and now this was not a bad book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I just was expecting to give it a lot more. Oh, look at the reflect. Can you see that in the camera? There's like a real reflection of this book. It's super sunny today. It's not very hot, but it's super sunny. A Wizard of Irsy by Ursula Le Guin. And I don't know, just I've heard so much good things about Ursula Le Guin. This was the first book by hers that I've read, and it sounded like fantasy up my alley, and I just kind of found myself like glassing out through the half of it. It didn't pull me in. I didn't feel really connected to the characters or anything. It was just kind of a miss for me, and it certainly wasn't bad. The writing wasn't bad. The story was fine, but it just wasn't for me, which was kind of a disappointment, even though, as I say, it wasn't a bad book. Number 6 is the biggest surprise. And this one was easy for me to pick, and that was The Book of Tomorrow by Cecilia Ahern. I thought this was going to be like an adult romance kind of thing, but I'm not sure what drew me to it. I picked it up at a Carr sale a year or 2 ago, and something did just draw me to it. But like, even like reading it and knowing what I know of Cecilia Ahern, which is maybe incorrect on my part because I've never read any of her books prior to this, I thought they were all kind of mushy, overly emotional, leaning towards romance. Which this isn't at all. This was a real surprise. It was a really good mystery. The characters and pacing and stuff were good fun. And I'm not going to say that it's a masterpiece by any stretch, but I read this whole thing in a day. I just flew through it. It's like 450 pages and I just couldn't put it down. It was so much fun. So that was the biggest surprise for me so far this year. Number 7 is your favourite new author. It could be actually a debut, a new author, or just an author that's new to you. And I was going to put N.K. Jemisin because I'd never read any of her books prior to this year. And now I've read 3 and I have a couple more on my TBR because I've really been enjoying her worlds. But I wanted to try and keep it a different answer for each question. So I'm going to go with Caleb Carr. I read The Alienist and then I read Killing Time. And I have Angels and Demons. I've bought it. It's downstairs. It's high on my TBR. So it'll be 3 books by him this year. And I really, really enjoy his writing style and how his writing and plots are very intellectual but very easily accessible, which is a hard thing to do sometimes. So I really enjoyed his reading style. I did, after reading The Alienist and loving it, tried to watch the Netflix series. Got about 10 minutes into the first episode. Couldn't do it. It was so bad. So I'm a bit peeved that I've got the Netflix cover of this book, but it was just the cheap secondhand one that I picked up. So there's a sequel to this, Angel in Darkness, which I haven't got to, but I read his book Killing Time as well, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So I think he's going to be a new favourite author. He hasn't got that many books out, but I'm planning to get to them all because there isn't that many. So now my books are like really glaring in my face. Look at that. That's just off the back of a matte book. And the sun today is wild. Number 8, newest fictional crush. I couldn't really think of an answer for that one. Number 9, newest favourite character. And this was hard for me. There was quite a few, but I'm going to go with a book that I borrowed from the library earlier in the year when libraries were open. How I miss the library. But I'm going to go with a character from The Secret History by Donald Hart. And I'm going to go with Julian. I thought his character was so deep and yet so sparingly explored at the same time. I don't know. I really enjoyed that book on all the characters. Not because maybe liking the characters, but the character development and like profile was just off the chart good in my opinion. But I did actually really like the character of Julian. I thought he was like kind of way out, but at the same time very relatable. And as I said, I think that he was, for as little as he was in it, the character was explored pretty deeply. So I just really enjoyed it overall. I said I wasn't going to double up, but for this one I had to. And it was a book that has made you cry. And I don't get overly emotional at like books or TV shows or anything. So I'm not sure if actually a tear was shed, but I did get emotional during the book. See, it's the only book that could fulfill this question, and I wasn't going to like knock it off the top book spot because it made me cry. So yeah, there definitely was some emotional parts to this. I was sick at the time. And on a lot of medications when I read this. So I'm not sure if that made it overly emotional, but knowing the subject, it's about World War II and there's quite a lot of deaths in it. So this was, I'm not, as I say, I can't remember if a tear was shed, but it definitely was an emotional read. And if you read emotionally, like if you do get emotional over books, I would have a tissue at hand for this one because there are some like sad bits in it. So just a forewarning. 11, a book that made you happy. I'm going to put in for this a book I read on my Kindle, so I'll have to insert the screen, and that is A Wizard of Oz. I read the whole series in, I believe, April or March. I don't know, this year has blurred. But I read all 13 books, and they just really, I'm not going to say they were masterpieces, but like A Book of Tomorrow, they were thoroughly enjoyable. I really enjoyed them. They were fun. Some were better than others. But just in general, the series, and if you had to pick one, the first book, it just was really fun and happy, and you knew the world and the characters. They're so beloved, even if you haven't read the book. So I enjoyed the series thoroughly. The most beautiful book you have bought this year. Not this year, no one can get out to buy books. I'm sure I did buy a few books pre-lockdown, maybe a few. I bought a couple since lockdown. They were in my last video, but they're all secondhand. None of them are particularly beautiful. And I can't remember if I bought any pre-lockdown, but there really has not been a lot of book buying this year because of that. So I don't really have an answer. I've downloaded a lot of Kindle books and things, but again, even with a nice cover, they're not really beautiful on the Kindle. Do you know what I mean? Just like a black and white screen. So I don't know. I can't think of anyone. I ordered this pre-lockdown. This wasn't in my haul. The Forgotten Beasts of Elves, purely because I was Googling, I was in a big fantasy kick at the start of lockdown. Did you see that? I just hit myself in the eye. But I was Googling like best fantasy books, and I was going through the ones that I had never read that were on like a lot of top 10 lists, and this was one of them. I guess that's a pretty cool cover. I was expecting the book to be longer, like it was so held as like a brilliant fantasy book. So it's interesting that it's heralded as such a great fantasy book, world building, all that kind of stuff, when it's so short. So I am interested to get to this soon. So I guess that's probably the prettiest book that I've bought this year. And the last one, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I was going to do a video on this. I have so many series that I'm in the middle of Today is not a good day for English. But I have like read a lot of series and not finished them. So I was going to do I was going to make a video telling you guys all the series that I started but never finished, and asking for your suggestions on what I should continue. So I would really like the focus of this year to be cleaning up a lot of the series that I have kind of left. Like, I never finished Time Riders. I didn't finish the Sally Lockhart series. I want to reread Percy Jackson and all the spin-offs this summer, so I have to get round to that. And then there's a couple more that I have maybe got the first one from the library or whatever that I need to finish. Both of these books that I got in my latest haul last week, these are both sequels to books that I have read like quite a long time ago, and like these are the sequels that I need to get to. So I can't see myself reading a lot of standalones for the rest of the year because I have a lot of series and sequels to get to. But I was going to do my next video will probably be my June wrap up, which hasn't been a lot. I have not a lot of reading this month. I've been very busy. So yeah, that's it for today. I hope you guys liked it, and comment below if you've read any of the books, haven't read any of these books, want any recommendations. I'm just happy to talk about anything bookish with anybody. I hope you're all happy. I hope you're all healthy and staying safe, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.